my brand new Glock Model 40 in 10 millimeter, and I've got to clean it. And I know this because I read the manual. So in the preventative maintenance section, chapter 10, we can see here, the Glock pistol should be cleaned and lubricated as follows: when brand new, before first time it is fired. So I'm anxious to get out to the range, but I got to give it a preventative maintenance, so I'm going to do it. So we'll do a safety check and we'll field strip it. We are clear. Going to slide off the frame. Get that recoil spring assembly out. Interesting, there's nothing in the manual about cleaning this in any way, so I'll probably call Glock and just really confirm that. No lube goes on it or anything, so put that aside. Barrel out. Another interesting thing that I read, and actually the shop told me too, this is my first time owning a Glock. You can see some copper colored lube in certain places, and it's a recommendation that you, per the manual, and that we leave that. So we're not going to scour that out of there. Okay. I'm going to start with the barrel. I'm going to, even though it certainly looks very clean, obviously there's whatever grease or whatever from the factory, we'll just get that out of there. So I've got my CLP, I use Ballistol. I've got my correct jag on here. This will say 40, which is the same as 10 millimeter. Got my correct patches. So I've got patches for 10 millimeter. Of course, they cover a lot of others. And I'm gonna run a patch down the barrel. Gonna get some CLP on this patch. Again, I'm using Ballistol, and we're gonna run this CLP down the barrel. Alrighty. Yeah. So you can really see the amount of grease that's in there from when it's manufactured. I don't know if they test fire these also at the factory or something like that, but definitely can stand to have a cleaning there. I'm going to get a bore brush going here, and I'm going to run that through the barrel a few times, just to knock things loose in there. Next up, another wet cloth wetted with CLP. Run that down the barrel. You can see how filthy that got. So that's cleaning it out. That's a good thing. Now we're going to run dry patches through until I feel that the patches come out clean. All right, so I ran a total of 5 patches. 3 of them I did double-sided, and I'm satisfied with the inside of the barrel. I'm just gonna wipe down some of the external parts of the barrel here with a cloth that has a little bit of CLP on it. All right, that wipe down I think is good. Next up, I need to lube the barrel. We don't want to overlube anything on a Glock according to the manual, so I'm not going to overlube. I'm going to put some lube on the lugs. And then next up, right there on the barrel hood, where it interfaces with the slide. And then just going to get some lube on the outside circumference of the barrel as well. And I'm wiping off the excess because, again, don't want to overlube it. And I think that's looking really good. Now let's put some attention on the slide. With the slide, I'm going to start by working on the rail cuts. So a little CLP on a cotton swab and just clean out the rail cuts in the slide. The area on the slide where the rails and the slide interface. Yep, definitely some factory grease or lube in there. I am going to be careful not to eliminate the copper colored lube that's from the factory. As recommended in the manual, I'm going to leave that alone. All right, continuing with using cotton swabs to clean out the rail cuts. Just getting those rail cuts ready for some fresh lube. Then I'm going to work on the interior parts of the slide here. Wipe those down, a little bit of ballistol on that rag. And then I'm going to lube. So, going to get a little bit of ballistol on a cotton swab and wipe that into the rail cuts. Get a nice lube in there. I'm going to get a little more of my CLP. And I'm going to dab it in here on the interior part of the slide there where it interfaces with the barrel. And then we'll put a little bit at the end here of the slide where the barrel interfaces with the end of the slide. That looks good for the slide. On the frame, we need to get a dab of lube right where the rear end of the trigger bar touches the connector. Right in that area there. So, let me get a little bit of lube on that. With a little lube on the Q-tip, I'm going to get some lube where the rear end of the trigger bar touches the connector. There we go. All done with the frame. Now I have a cloth that has my CLP on it, a little bit of ballistol, and I'm just wiping down the outside surfaces of the slide to clean it and protect it. Last thing we're going to do with the slide is work on the breech face here. I have to be careful. I don't want to get any CLP into the firing pin channel. If this wasn't a new pistol, I'd work some CLP on there, being super careful that I'm holding the slide in such a way that no CLP dripped in. For now, I'm just going to use a dry cloth and wipe it down. I'm just working with a dry patch here, wiping off the breech face from both sides, making sure that it's dry. Okay, I've got my work area cleaned up. After cleaning and lubing, it's time for inspection, function, and safety checks. First up, an external inspection. Let's take a look at the frame. Everything looks fine. There's no cracks. There's no parts that appear to be broken or loose. It's a brand new gun, so wouldn't expect that, but that's inspection there. The barrel, brand new barrel, so wouldn't expect any bulges or cracks, dings or dents. Everything looks good there. we're going to do a firing pin safety check. So, at the back of the slide here, this is the rear lug on the firing pin. And right now, I'm going to push forward gently, and we can see it is not protruding through the breech face, which is good because it is the safety, firing pin safety is blocking the firing pin from going forward. So that's a good thing. It's the first check. We're going to pull it back. I'm going to let it go forward gently. I'm not letting it snap back. I'm going to push on it gently, and the firing pin safety is doing its job. That's our first test. Our next test, we're going to work on testing that the firing pin is functioning. To do this, we're going to get the firing pin safety pushed down into the slide. And then we're going to push the firing pin forward to see that it actually protrudes from the breech face. So, two hands here, one pushing down on the firing pin safety, the other pushing the firing pin forward. And now we can see the firing pin there protruding from the breech face. So that's a successful test. Next up, we're going to check that the firing pin channel is clear. So internally in the slide, the firing pin needs to be able to move freely back and forth in here. The way we're told to test this is we're going to depress that safety, firing pin safety down, and then we're going to shake the slide vigorously and expect to hear the firing pin moving back and forth in there. Yep, I can hear the firing pin in the firing pin channel sliding freely back and forth. So that's a successful test on our firing pin. Next up, let's take a look at the extractor. So looking in close at the breech face, looking at that claw on the extractor, making sure it's clean, making sure no cracks, it's not broken in any way. So just looking at it from multiple angles there to make sure it looks good. Next up, let's take a look at the ejector right here. I want to make sure that's not broken, loose. It does have a orientation at an angle like this, which is correct for this model. And it's intact and it is solid. So that's the next check. That's passed our test there. Now we'll do a slide stop lever test. So here's our slide stop, pulling up on it and expecting it to drop right back down. That's a fairly simple test. Of course, when we function check, we're going to really test that the slide stop is functioning correctly. Next, for each of our magazines, we're going to wipe them down with a dry cloth, check the feed lips, make sure the follower is functioning and is not broken or cracked. Do that for each of our magazines. We are ready for reassembly. First, we'll get the barrel into the slide. And then we will get the recoil spring assembly in place. We'll take a closer look here at how it needs to connect to that front lug of the barrel. There's kind of two levels on that front lug, an upper level and a lower level. We want it, the recoil spring connected into the lower level, and it's crescent shaped as well if you look closely at it, so you'll see that it really does belong in that lower level, and that's what we want. So just making really sure it's in the right place. Looks good. All right, let's get the slide on the frame. Just pushing it back and through. Now, a little bit of function checking on the slide. Trigger check. Slide lock check. Slide release check. Now let's do a trigger safety test. To do that, I don't want to be pushing on the trigger safety itself. I want to press the trigger from its edges. So I'm going to get 2 fingers, one on each edge, attempt to pull the trigger back. The trigger should not go back. The trigger safety is doing its job. That's a successful test. Now we'll do a trigger reset test. Rack the slide, pull the trigger, rack the slide, feel the reset of the trigger. That's a successful test. And put the magazine in, getting slide lock. There we go. Inspection. All of our safety checks, reassembly, and final checks there. I'm ready to go to the range. Looking forward to it.